Hari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Leave that one there. Yashoda Nandana Vajajana Ranjana. Balaram book. Yashoda Nandana Vajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jai Mr. Paramahansa, Bhadradikacharya, Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Om Shnapad Paramahansa, Bhadradikacharya, Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the sum of devotees. All glory to the sum of devotees. All glory to the sum of devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Bala, you know what to do with the front doors. Just close them. Street noise. Okay. Narayan Namaskritya. Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamidiriyet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatuttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 24th day of July 2019 in SanDiego, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 16, Praise of King Prithu by the Professional Reciters, text number 9. Apyayat yat yaso lokam vadanamatamurtina Sanuragavalokena Vishada Smitacharuna. Okay, can you make sure this light is on all the way? I think it's down a little bit. I usually don't need it, but I do now. Apyayayatyasav lokam vadanamatamurtina Sanuragavalokena Vishada smita charuna apyaya yatya savalokam vadanamritamurtina sanuragavalokena Vishada smita charuna apyaya yatya savalokam vadanamritamurtina sanuragavalokena Vishadasmita charuna apyaya yatya savalokam vadanamritamurtina sanuragavalokena Vishadasmita charuna David wrote apyaya yatya savalokam vadanamritamurtina sanuragavalokena Vishadasmita charuna. Damla, are you ready? Okay. Apyaya yatya savalokam vadanamritamurtina sanuragavalokena Vishadasmita charuna apyaya yatya savalokam vadanamritamurtina sanuragavalokena Vishadasmita charuna apyayati enhances. Asau, he. Who is he? Prithu Maharaj. Lokam, the whole world. Vadana, by his face. Amritamurtina, moon-like. Sa anuraga, affectionate. Avalokena, with glances. Vishada, bright. Smita, smiling. Charuna, beautiful. Translation. The professional reciters continued. This king, Prithu Maharaj, by virtue of his affectionate glances and beautiful moon-like face, which is always smiling with great affection for the citizens, will enhance everyone's peaceful life. Okay, text 10, there's no purport here. I'll read it myself. Avyaktavatma shanagura karyo gambhira vedha upagupta vittaha ananta mahatmya gunaika dama pitu pacheta ivasam vritatma. The reciters continued, no one will be able to understand the policies the king will follow. His activities will also be very confidential, and it will not be possible for anyone to know how he will make every activity successful. His treasury will always remain unknown to everyone. He will be the reservoir of unlimited glories and good qualities, and his position will be maintained and covered just as Varuna, the deity of the seas, is covered all around by water. Purport. There is a predominating deity for all the material elements, and Varuna, or Pacheta, is the predominating deity of the seas and the oceans. From outward appearances, the seas and oceans are devoid of life, but a person acquainted with the sea knows that within the water exist many varieties of life. The king of that underwater kingdom is Varuna. Just as no one can understand what is going on beneath the sea, no one could understand what policy King Prithu was following to make everything successful. Indeed, King Prithu's path of diplomacy was very grave. His success was made possible because he was a reservoir of unlimited, glorified qualities. The word Upagupta Vittaha is very significant in this verse. It indicates that no one would know the extent of the riches King Prithu would confidentially keep. The idea is that not only the king, but everyone should keep his hard-earned money confidentially and secretly, so that in due course of time the money can be spent for good practical purposes. In the Kali Yuga, however, the king or government has no well-protected treasury, and the only means of circulation is currency notes made of paper. Thus, in times of distress, the government artificially inflates the currency by simply printing papers, and this artificially raises the price of commodities, and the general condition of the citizens becomes very precarious. Thus, keeping one's money very secretly is an old practice, for we find this practice present even during the reign of Maharaj Prithu. Just as the king has the right to keep his treasury confidential and secret, the people should also keep their individual earnings a secret. There is no fault in such dealings. The main point is that everyone should be trained in the system of Varna-ashram dharma, so that the money is spent only for good causes and nothing else. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnanandana Shalakya Chukshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So how shall I put it? It's how poignant is it to hear this wonderful description from the professional reciters about King Prithu. And this is, of course, in the future. He hasn't done any of these things yet. But even though he very humbly asked them not to glorify him for things he hasn't done, they're still glorifying him. And we're able to learn what the standard is of an actual leader of society. Just think of this first verse, the one with no purport. By virtue of his affectionate glances and beautiful moon-like face, Prithu, which is always smiling with great affection for the citizens, King Prithu will enhance everyone's peaceful life. What a contrast that is with today, not with our own leader, but all over the world. It's almost a given that when someone comes to someone claws his way up into the presidentship, prime ministership, whatever you want to call it, that he's going to exploit that position for his own benefit. Corruption is rampant. And why wouldn't it be? Where is the training? Where is the training for Brahminical qualities, or even human qualities in today's world? The education system, this association, produces a population which is saturated with the modes of passion and ignorance. And in those modes, what becomes more prominent? Lust, anger, greed, illusion, all of these low qualities. And if someone has the karma or somehow scratches his way to the top, then those qualities are still there. Now, he may be expert in hiding them, because after all, in a so-called democracy, you have to promise the people that, I'm going to fight for you. I understand that, you have no jobs. Well, when I come in, I'm going to produce so many jobs. Right? This is how they win election. Peace, hope and change, right? Very clever. This was the last president. Hope and change. So, with that, they believed him. The whole idea, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this is again this great sage Marx, not Karl Marx, Groucho Marx. He said that for politics to be successful in politics, the most important quality is sincerity. If you can fake that, you got it made. Got it? That's exactly what's happening today. Is that if you can convince the people that you're really on their side, and then get hold of the reins of power, then you can exploit it. And even while you're in power, you can do things that still bewilder them, and they're thinking that you're doing it. You would do what you promised, but be being stopped by those people over there, or those people over there. So here we have the standard in Maharaj Prithu, and he had no personal desire for being the king. He didn't become the king in order to exploit the position. He was a Shakti-based avatar, so he has all these good qualities of Krishna. Now, one little editorial note, because I can't help reading these books with that. In the end of the first paragraph of the purport, we read, he was a reservoir of unlimited glorified qualities. Nothing's going to change. We're not going to change the word. But you should know that oftentimes glorified means glorious. It's a slight difference in emphasis, but you understand? He was a reservoir of unlimited glorious qualities. And here they're being glorified. But one can be a reservoir of glorious qualities and be hidden and not be glorified. So that's what he is, his glorious qualities that he had. And some of them have been delineated, and here we hear some more. The idea that the leader of any unit, if you will, of organization, whether it's a country or a company or a school or an institution like Hare Krishna movement, anything where you have people organized in a group to achieve some kind of aim, it's essential that the leader has the welfare of the group in mind. That's his or her primary motivation. Otherwise, it becomes a cheating proposition, which is very prominent in this age of Kali. It's the age of quarrel and cheating and bluffing and so forth. So here we have the perfect ideal. By virtue of his affectionate glance of beautiful moon-like face, is always smiling with great affection for the citizens and will enhance everyone's peaceful life. So when you're under protection, it's just like a family unit. If the mother and father are, love each other, and they're actually have the interests of the family and the children in mind, and they're working such, and they express that affection and so forth, then the children can grow up healthy, emotionally and mentally and so forth. It's a rare situation today. There's so much disruption enters in. First of all, the influences on the delicate mind of the children, what to speak of the adults, is like wide open. The internet is a huge disaster in that regard. Anything, as a kid, 10 years old. I mean, I remember I visited a family. These are devotee families in Toronto a few years ago. This is a couple who lived here for several years because he was studying some computer thing that was only available in SanDiego, And a very nice couple. What was his name? Santosh and Shruti, I think their names were. I don't know if any of you were here at the time. And so they would come to class, the evening class. And eventually he completed his studies, and he wanted to get established in his career and everything. And so they moved to Toronto. And they happened to move right in the middle of the city, right like 2 blocks from the Rath Yatra path that would go. This Yonge Street, Y-O-N-G-E. It's the longest street in the city. It goes right through the middle of the city. And every year the Rath Yatra goes right down that road. There's many people on either side. It's very wonderful. So one year the couple that I would usually stay with, that usually hosted me, were in India or something. So I stayed with them. It was very nice. They didn't have that big a place, but they gave me a room, and they had this little child named Pragya. Pragya means very intelligent, and she was super intelligent kid. She was like 3 years old. She was do shlokas and everything, But in order to, the mother had to do so many things. Father's out at work, So what do they do to pacify the kid? Give her a little iPad type thing, a phone actually. And she got fascinated, the games you can play, the things you can do on that phone. I didn't say anything. I mean, it may have been completely wholesome, the things that were, but it's such a risk. When you look at that little screen, the whole world is there, Pornography, all kinds of influences, And the kids, the young kids, have become so dependent on those phones, the social media and everything, that if they don't have the phone for a half an hour, they start breathing heavy. There's all kinds of things. They become extremely attached to those phones because their whole world is in the phone. This is not healthy for human development. This kind of thing. The parents don't have control over what's the influence is coming into the kid, the family. So there's a certain kind of least common denominator thing that happens, because as soon as there's money to be made, there will be people behind it, and they could be the lowest type of people exploiting others, luring kids out into the night and never see them again. And this is going on in today's world. And there's the leadership. They don't care. Ultimately, they just want to look like they care. And so this is what we're facing as a Hare Krishna movement. Srila Prabhupada's books, this whole society is meant as a cultural movement. Means that the culture of our own lives is meant to change, become purified, peaceful, good, conducted by the modes of goodness, not by the modes of passion and ignorance. Because the mind can easily is the engine of your activities, and when the mind is influenced by the lower modes, then your natural knowledge of the soul is covered, and you do all kinds of things that can hurt yourself and others. And when you have a society of people who are not being guided properly, then the whole thing degrades very quickly. Even in my short lifetime, relatively speaking, I've seen so much get worse and worse, So we're given this example to, see what some of the benefits of Krishna consciousness, not just personally, but socially, culturally, in every kind of way. This is the only hope for the betterment of human society. Now, we hear that there is a 10,000-year hiatus in the inevitable progression of Kali Yuga. And we're in the middle of that now, really at the beginning. Lord Chaitanya appeared 543 years ago, or 33 years ago. So that's only 500 years out of 10,000. So it's all, we're at the beginning of it. It's hard to see how this world is going to survive the present, all the features that are threatening, imminent nuclear war, a little less imminent, but just as sure, climate change, climate disaster, social disruption. The refugees. Everyone knows about the refugee crisis. Well, what causes that? Well, war definitely causes it, but also climate disruption. The Syrian thing started because they had a huge drought and people didn't know where to find food. When someone is hungry, they're on the move. If they can't fight, they take their family and they try to find a place where they somehow can find safety. I'll get into this boat and try to sail across the Mediterranean Sea to go to Italy. So many people died in that way. This is the world we live in, because the leadership is like demonic. It's demonic. So we have our work cut out for us. So now Prabhupada makes the point in the second verse, which is 10. Now, he will make every activity successful. He will be the reservoir of unlimited glories, good qualities. His will be maintained and covered, just as Varuna, the deity of the seas, is covered all around by water. So, again, he's making the point, this was also made a few verses back, that there is a predominating deity for all the material elements. Krishna consciousness philosophy means to see the person behind everything, that nothing is impersonal. Even things that, a brick, don't you see a brick? You see, oh, this is Krishna's energy. It's been made into a brick by a human being employing Krishna's energy in the form of intelligence in order to make it into something useful that can be used in a building. It said, I forget the verse, the Bengali, that a pure devotee doesn't see a tree as it is. He sees Krishna. How? Because he sees there's a soul in that tree, and that soul is part and parcel of Krishna. And the tree itself is made of wood and whatever elements, and those are all Krishna's energy. So by becoming saturated in Krishna consciousness through bhakti yoga, you're meant to see Krishna everywhere, either directly through the sound or the murti and so forth, or indirectly, but still clearly, through the energies of the Lord. In this way, you see everything is sacred. There's a verse in the 11th canto, I memorized this one time, I don't have it down anymore, where it's describing that the pure devotee offers obeisance to everything in existence, understanding that it's all part of Krishna's energy and that it's connected to Krishna. Now, how can you live practically like that if you go around offering your obeisances to everything? But more important is that we adopt the principles of yukta vairagya. Yukta vairagya. This is a central principle given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. Yukta vairagya as opposed to polgu vairagya. Polgu means weak, ineffectual. Yukta vairagya means detachment in yoga. Actually, this is what we try to practice. So what's the principle? Anasaktasya vishayan yataham upayunjita nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagya muchyate. So there's something called vishaya. Vishaya are the object of the senses, things that may be enjoyable or that we want to exploit. So it says, without attachment to those things, employing them wherever appropriate in the service of Krishna. Anasaktasya, without attachment. Vishayan yatarham, as is appropriate. Upayunjita, engaging them in the service of Krishna. Upayunjita, nirbandha Krishna sambandhe, In this way, you're not bound. You're not bound by those vishyas. The vishyas are something that ordinarily you would try to enjoy, like food. Okay? Just down the road or up the road or all over the place, you have these supermarkets, or you have something like Trader Joe's or whatever. They're cornucopias. You can go in there and get anything you like, right? So so people go in there and they load up on their groceries and they check out. There's no thought that, oh, this is coming from God and it should be offered to God. There's just hunger. Okay, it has to happen. So, but devotees can go shopping with that other motive. It says, oh, I need this in order to prepare an offering to make to Krishna. You see? And then I'll take the remnants. You see, it changes the whole mindset and it changes the whole experience. It becomes an act of devotion to Krishna. I'm getting these, the other day, Maharaj, I was going to Sprouts. I go there periodically. And I told Maharaj I was going. He was staying there with me. And he said, oh, can you pick me up some organic berries? I said, what kind of berries? Blueberries? He said, no, I got enough blueberries. What's that other berry? And we started going through berries. Raspberries, strawberries, this berry, that berry. And then he mentioned cherries. He's really into cherries, organic cherries. I mean, there were already cherries and berries in different parts of my kitchen. But he wanted more cherries, more berries. That's okay. So I went there. And I looked and looked. I had to ask somebody, where are the organic things, And I found the organic cherries. And then they had these nice grapes, these special, what do they call them, sapphire grapes. It said right on the package, divine flavor. But it said right there. What is it? Moondrop, they're called? They're long grapes. So I forgot that he asked me to get grapes. So I got the grapes and the cherries. When I got back, he said, no, grapes. I have so many grapes. It's just like Mara speaks. I have so many grapes. Look, you have cherries too. Anyway, so I gave him the cherries. He said, oh, very nice, but I can't have the grapes. So what am I going to do with the grapes? I said, okay, I'll eat them. Then I said, well, just let me bring them over to the temple. Because I saw they've had those grapes before. Delicious grapes, So I'd never seen them before, long grapes. So I brought them over. I hope they were offered. Did they ever get offered? Okay. So I said, okay. I don't have to think, oh, I lost, $3.29, No. Just bring them over to Krishna. It's a much better idea. So that's, that's a way in which you can purify everything that you do. You see it as, and ultimately we're meant to live in a way, really consciously, when the mind is not clouded by, the modes of nature, that everything we do, every breath, is somehow connected to service to Krishna. Kayena vacha manasin vyava buddhyatmanavam nasudasobhavat kadodi yadyat sakalam padasmai narayanayet samarpayecha. This is a verse in the 11th canto where it's describing, one of the Yogendras describing the way in which you can be free of fear. The whole thing is how you be free of fear. So here's the standard. Body, kayena, with the words, with your mind, with your senses, with your intelligence, with your soul, all the things that you have at your disposal. Whatever you do, yad karoti, whatever you do, you feel, you understand, and you mold your life in such a way. This is being done as an offering to Krishna, an offering to Narayan. Narayanayati samarpayeta. Now, imagine what it's like to live in that consciousness. It means that there's no false ego infection where it's a little for Krishna, a little for me, a little for Krishna, a little for me. That type of thing. And this is the platform of peace, actual peace. Because the idea is, even if that offering fails or somehow is not completed, it's still a success because your motive is in the right place and you tried your best. That's the great advantage of the devotees over the karmis, the fruitive workers. If they don't get the fruit, all their effort is deemed a failure. They made this investment, I had this hope, I followed all the rules and regulations, I went and got my degree, I got my job, and now I'm out of work? Oh, the whole thing was a failure. What did I do? This happens all the time. Young people, they go through, get a degree, it's all set, and then there's no job in their field, and they've got this huge debt, right? So here the hopes, the plans, they did everything right, they worked hard, they didn't party, they didn't do this, and now, well, what am I going to do? Oh, I'll live with my folks for a while. 35 years old, they're still living with their folks because there's no jobs out there. They couldn't, it's beyond their control. So you imagine what that does to your mentality? But devotees, you come into the temple, you may not even live here yet, but you're chanting Hare Krishna. It's all good. I'm doing the best I can, It's not like, oh, I'm a complete failure. I mispronounced a word. Do your best. Chant Hare Krishna. Learn how to do it right. Do a little service. It's all good, I'm a devotee. I'm feeling the benefits of the devotion. And gradually you advance. So Krishna is so, on a personal level, he's so eager to have us come back to him. Think of it on a totally personal level. Here we are, wayward children. We've been in this material world for millions of years, and we've suffered like anything. And we're his children. He claims us. How does it go? Sabi yonishtu kontiya murtiyak sabhavandaya tasam brahma mahadyone aham bija padakpita. How many times did Prabhupada quote that line? I am the seed-giving father of all these living entities. Not even just human beings, all of them. He claims all of us. And he accompanies us here as super soul. There's no living entities in any organism that don't have the super soul sitting right next to them. So what is he? He's not involved, he's watching. And where possible, in the human form, he's trying to give good instruction. What do you think the conscience is? I remember this one phrase, it's a very nice devotee named Rupanuga. He was one of the pioneers. He was one of the 26 Second Avenue devotees. He was older. He was like 28 when he came. He was working with the welfare office, just like Satsup Maharaj. Eventually he took sannyas, this and that, and had a lot of responsibilities. He's the one, that Potomac, Maryland place they have near Washington, he got that years ago. That was a great victory. Have a place in Washington, D.C. Anyway, when I joined, he was the temple president in Brooklyn. When I actually visited there first, and when I actually joined with someone else. But I remember this phrase. He said, we have to develop a Krishna conscience. You don't usually hear that. Krishna conscience. Now, what is the conscience? Freud analyzed it, the superego. That is it was super self, superego, that is instilled in the child. That is telling him, no, don't do this, do this. And if you follow that, then you become a good person, provided you're trained properly. But that conscience, actual conscience, is the voice of the super soul, telling you the right thing to do. So, according to what mode we're in, it's that voice is loud, or we accept it, or we reject it. If you keep rejecting it, you don't hear it anymore. Then, you can become a sociopath. You don't have any feelings, any empathy for anyone, whatever I can get out of you. There are people like that, some of them in responsible positions. So that's the same soul, who's part and parcel of Krishna, who's ultimately a servant of his lotus feet, has become so covered that his only aim in life is exploiting other people and making so much money and doesn't have any feeling. This is a psychopath. It's psychopathy and sociopathy. So we want to try to let that voice become louder for us. And to do that means hearing the Shastra and hearing the realized souls. Prabhupada served as that voice. He was the voice of the super soul of Krishna. There was no doubt in his voice. You listen to these early lectures. That's why in one verse in purport he describes in the fourth canto. I think we maybe read it already. No, coming on it, where the voice of the realized souls is so important. It's saturated with the saffron mercy particles from the lotus feet of Krishna. Does anyone remember that purport? Balaram remembers. And so the point is that that's the importance of association, of hearing from a realized soul. It can enter deep in the heart and transform you. And that, the criterion for what you think is good to do and what is not good to do changes, undergoes a transformation. The more that we hear, the more that we follow the instructions. I've emphasized this word, shu shu shro. Does anyone remember what that word means? We hear it several times in Bhagavad Gita. Second verse of the whole Bhagavatam? Yeah. So what does that mean in that context? Vasudeva Kataruchi Syano Hatsebhya. Right. Right. Shushusho, it comes from hearing, obviously, but it means more than that. It means to hear, take it in your heart, and then serve. So it has that connotation of humble service according to what you've heard from the great souls or from the Shastra. You hear it at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, second verse of the whole Bhagavatam. Those who know it can chant along. Dharma projita kaitavota padamhone matsaranam satam vejam vastava mattavastu shivadham tapatrayon moolanam Sriman Bhagavate Mahamanakute Kingva Paradishwara Sadjoridnyavarujate Tukatabi Shushushubis Tatshadat. So that's an important verse about the Bhagavatam. It's glorifying the Bhagavatam. The first idea, Balaram, Dharma projita kaitavotra. Yes. Yes. Dharma here means religion. Tra, here, in the Bhagavatam. All cheating religions are kicked out. Projita means thrown far away. Pra-ujita. Pra is an intensifier. Ujita means to throw. Throw it very energetically and far away. No cheating religion here. Cheating religion being defined as a personally motivated religion. I'm going to worship God for A, B, C, and D. And if I don't get it, I'll give up my religion. It's happening all over the world. People see God as a order supplier. So also, Sridhar Swami has said, another part of cheating religion is to only work your dharma for liberation. Liberation alone is ultimately a material motive, material gain. I want to be free of all misery. Hell with everyone else. I'm going off to the mountains. This is Prahlad's condemnation. Nirmatsaranam satam vejam. Now it is understood only by those who are free of envy. So even not everyone can understand Bhagavatam. And we want to become more qualified to really appreciate Bhagavatam. We have to become totally non-envious of Krishna. We're not trying to compete with him. We don't envy other devotees or anybody else. We're simply humble servants of the Lord. Then what does it contain? Vastava vastu. This is a nice little phrase to remember. Vastava vastu. Vastu means a thing. Vastava means the real thing, as it is, the ultimate object of reality, which is Brahman. Don't forget, Bhagavatam is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra is aimed at inquiry into Brahman. What is Brahman? The source of everything. It basically is an easy definition. The source of everything, that which maintains everything, and that which dissolves everything in the end, and which is there at the end. Aham evasame agre nanyan yatsarasaparam. Chatra Shloki. Krishna is telling Brahma, the first created being, before there was anything, there was me. And after everything is manifest, it's still me through my energies. And when I wind everything up, I will remain in the spiritual world with all my experiences. So that has to be God. That's the only one. So, Vastava Vastu Shivadam. What's the value of knowing this Vastava Vastu, the ultimate ground of being, the ultimate reality? Shivadam. It gives all auspiciousness to anyone who inquires. Tapa Trayon Mulanam. Can anyone guess what that means? Tapa Unmulayam. Traya Unmulayam. The threefold miseries. Yeah, we know the threefold miseries. Mind, body, the devas, natural, problems. Climate change, that's a big one. All the miseries you can think of, they're within the Tapatraya. Unmulanam, you become free of that. Means that you can lead your life in such a way that the miseries may go on, but they don't bother you so much. You can transcend them because you're living in a different reality beyond the material plane. Srimad Bhagavatam, what is it we're talking about? Srimad Bhagavatam. Mahamunikute, which was compiled by the great Muni Vyasadeva in his maturity, Prabhupada says, we know. King Vaparar, what do you need anything else for? In other words, this is the most important book you can read. Ultimately, why is it all you need ultimately? Bhaktivedanta said, if all the other books are destroyed but Bhagavatam remains, then we're okay. Because Ishvara Sadyo Ridnyavarujyatetra, by hearing this Bhagavatam, the Ishvara, the Lord, is manifest in the heart quickly, relatively quickly, for those who are shushushubi, those who hear with rapt attention and who take the instructions to heart and try to follow them. So this is an essential part of our sadhana. Prabhupada, that's the first book he translated. Bhagavatam, first canto. Bhagavad Gita is an introduction to that. Bhagavatam expands on everything the Gita gives. So, the Vishayas is going back to our theme of vairagya, yukta vairagya. This is the essential Krishna consciousness. What do we have at our disposal? Well, we have our own intelligence. We have our own voice. We have some wealth. We have vital energy. Prana, artha, diya, vacha. Krishna summarized it. Your life force, your wealth, whatever it may be. Diya, your intelligence, and your words. It says, human life is successful when you employ all of those for the benefit of other living beings who are suffering. Now, where's the Krishna consciousness? Well, Krishna is saying this, but the point is, we know from our own experience and from the teachings that the only real ultimate benefit is for people to learn about Krishna consciousness, how they can get out of this maelstrom and go back to Godhead. Along with that, society will be organized, this is part of Krishna consciousness, in such a way people can live peacefully and happily and prosperly. But then at a certain point, you practice austerity, renunciation, detachment, because you don't want to stay attached to this realm. But while you're here, if there's a Krishna conscious leader and varnashram is being practiced, then there's a harmony. Nobody is simply exploiting others, viciously. Or if someone does that, there's a government that can easily reform that person or take him out of circulation. In other words, the whole purpose of society, as we learn again in the second chapter, first canto, is to further people's spiritual evolution. Otherwise, what does it mean that that's the ultimate goal of life? If the leaders don't know the ultimate goal of life, then we have a troubled society. But if they do, then they'll organize things in such a way that Krishna conscious temples are in every block. So that's part of what we're learning here, is how a proper leader can organize things. And this whole idea of upagupta vitta, it's just so interesting how this is so 180 degrees from what we have. Here Prabhupada is praising this idea that the leader is keeping the treasury secret. But from before he was elected, I won't name him, but you know what I mean, they wanted to see, where are your tax returns? In other words, they don't trust that you weren't a cheater. So all up until this present leader, everybody, as part of the campaign, released his tax returns to show that going way back, I didn't cheat on my taxes, I'm an honest person, you can trust me. Somehow he got elected without showing the tax returns to this very day, which would lead you to think that maybe there's something to hide in there. In other words, if you don't have trust in the person, then you want to do all these checks and balances. But Prithu, he's a Shakti-based avatar. So his keeping the treasury secret was fine, because it means that he's going to they know he's going to use it for the people's benefit. So Prabhupada talks about how that's the king has no well-protected treasury. The only means of circulation is currency notes made of paper. So this is what they're doing now. They're building a huge mountain of debt based on, that's not even paper anymore, it's just numbers on a screen. If you go to the bank to get a loan and you sign up, they don't get any money or gold or anything and give you it. They just put it into the computer. They create money out of thin air. And then you wonder why suddenly the value of the dollar or currencies collapse. The only reason why we're sitting here in this relative prosperity is because America, through its military, enforces the idea that the dollar is the reserve currency. If anyone wants to buy oil on any market, they have to buy it in dollars. That means that you have to get dollars from the U.S. government, and that props up the value of the dollar. But now countries all over the world are trying to get out from under the dollar, and if they do, the dollar is going to collapse, and we may be a third world country here. Trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars worth of debt. But not only the government debt, there's like up to 22 trillion, and then you have the debt within the world, just the school debt, that the people that have gotten is built up to over $1 trillion now. What happens when all the debt can't be paid? The whole thing goes bankrupt. So it's just like an addict who pushes and pushes and pushes the drug, and finally the system collapses and you go to the hospital. You survive if you're lucky. So that's the world we live in. We don't have to be part of it. We have our little unit, and we're trying to survive it. But it's that's what Kali Yuga is. And the way we understand it, when people become desperate, we'll be able to give them some relief through the practices of Krishna consciousness. And people will see the benefits of it. That's part of the preaching that Prabhupada gave us. Okay, any comments or questions? All of this is very fascinating stuff. All right, let's end with something sweet. That was kind of depressing. What's going on in the world? Of course, Pitu is very enlivening. For Krishna and his multitude of friends, a festival of joy each day would bring. A special thrill in Braja's verdant glens was riding with them high upon a swing. O Ujjvala, Sridama, Bhadrasen, just see Vrindavan's bountiful delights. The peacock's dance, the songbird's sweet refrain, the lakes and hills and other scenic sights. All these make this the best place on the earth for us to play all day and herd the cows. Thus Krishna, in a mood of sportive mirth, enthused his friends while swinging from the boughs. So remember that as you go to Prasadam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.